At what point did this turn from an interest to a business for you?
So for me, it started just because I love flying. And if I can make the journey fun, that seemed like an awesome way to do it. So this is just what I cared about and what I was interested in doing.
I believe abundance is a mindset, right? How do you want to live your life? Luxury, economy. Do you want to be average or first class? Do you want to be a VIP or general admission? It's a mindset for me. But for the people that don't share that because they don't think it's possible, what would you say to them?
I think, especially with points and credit cards, people see credit cards as dangerous. And I'll readily admit they can be if you're not in a good position financially and you're not responsible with your finances. I always say that this is an extra to enhance your life. We're very aware of what we're spending, where we're spending, how much our annual fees are. Are we getting more value out of the credit card than the annual fee? Like, we're constantly thinking like 10 moves ahead.
All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I'm joined by a great topic. This is going to be really fun. I'm joined by Spencer Howard, and I'm going to give you a little quick background on him, but he's a credit card loyalty and travel reward expert. He's a founder of a company called Straight to the Points, and he teaches strategies behind how to use your business card to create luxury travel lifestyle. But he's been a travel writer, editor for over a decade, featured on podcasts and outlets. What I loved about when I saw his background is he travels 3 months per year, 60 plus countries. So welcome to the podcast, Spencer. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Yeah, this is great. This is a good topic because as people know me, they know I'm all about mindset and business and money, but lifestyle is the whole point of it. So tell us a little bit about your story. Like, I'm curious what your background is, but more importantly, what settled you into this niche of luxury travel?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually used to work in politics, everybody's favorite industry.
All right.
And oh man, it's crazy. But I guess towards the end of that, I picked up just by reading a blog, just something about, I was like, oh, points? What are points? And I dove into this a bit. And the guy was like, oh, I fly business class with points. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm 6'3". I would love to lie down. He's a lot. I think I like just booked a flight to Japan or something in economy. And I was like, my knees are going to be in the back of the seat in front of me. I need to do this better. And that was like the jumping off point for me. And then I spent
Had you been
entirely
traveling already though? Had you your whole life, have you traveled or not really?
not a ton, but it's something I always wanted to. When you work in politics, you don't really get a lot of time off, so you just go on the work side of things, not a lot of lifestyle. This was towards the end of it, and I was starting to have a little more time to travel, and I just made figuring out the best ways to do it a priority. And then I would say I spent 4 hours a night for 6 months learning everything you could never wanna know about airline programs and credit card fine print. And now I basically just say, "You don't need to do that, I'll do it for you." S
That's awesome. So you and this is credit card travel, but you've been blogging and writing. And so was that writing and blogging in this particular topic that you were
Yeah.
learning and studying and growing on?
Yeah, it was about 9 months after I got really into this that I started writing part-time, just freelancing, picked up enough writing to leave the previous job and just start a new career path, and it was all educational writing. I would say I'm not very good at clickbait. I'm
Yeah.
really good at breaking down complex topics and making them understandable.
Yeah.
So that's been my focus, and yeah, that's what I still do now with my email newsletter.
At what point did this turn from an interest to a business for you? What made you decide, I like this, I want to make this a business? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure a lot of people will be like, there's a lot of things I'd like to do. I'm going to study them. I'm really get
Sure.
into them, maybe even write, but how do I monetize it? So at what point did it turn into a business? And did you see initially that there was an opportunity with it? Or was it just, I think I can do this and I want to focus my time on it?
Yeah, at first it was freelance writing, so I just had contracts with different sites to write for them, and that was easy enough. I guess about 2 years after I started writing, I started my email newsletter as just a hobby. I think I was looking for a flight, noticed something like a rare opportunity to use points for some like business class flight. And I mentioned to a friend of mine, I was like, "Ah, I do all this research for the articles I'm writing. I should just send emails out when I find something worth booking." And he was just like, "Do it right now. I'll sign up. Do it. Do it." I think I started an email newsletter like an email list the next day.
So that's great, and it's really funny you say that because I think a lot of people they dabble. I've got this interest, I do some things, but I want to make a real interesting point to the listeners. 4 hours a night for 6 months. Like you
Yeah.
really studied it. You got to know it. You went deep, right? I think most people
Yeah.
dabble. I think they should go deep. And then a couple of freelance writing for a couple of years and decided to do a newsletter. Why did you choose newsletter? Just because you were already a writer and you thought that's a great way for me to just kick out my ideas?
Yeah, I it's funny because I remember when it was 2018 and I remember hearing people say, "Oh, email newsletters are dead." And I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine." I like blogging. This is a little bit more of a, I don't know, curated space, I guess you could say. I'm only going to talk to people who are interested in what I'm interested in. You're not signing
Mhm.
up for my newsletter if you don't care about flying business or first class, or if you don't care about traveling abroad. So I knew that it was going to be like people interested in what I'm interested in. Also, I wanted to, gatekeep's a strong word, but I wanted to like, I wanted people to commit. If I was going to give them all this info, and I'm giving them an advantage over other people who maybe aren't aware of this award space, or they can book flights with points. So it was just a way to make sure people who had committed to me had a chance to book before I got out more broadly.
Yeah, I think that we're going to dig into kind of the points and how it works and things in a minute here. But I always love interviews like this because I think it shows that success is pretty consistent and principles are consistent. You found something that you actually had the interest in. You started working with it. You really went deep with it. You focused your time on it. You also drilled down a little bit into a niche. And I was going to ask you, when it comes to luxury travel, is that because you saw the opportunity or because that's really what you were focused on for you? So you decided to stay in that vein?
Yeah, so for me, it started just because I love flying, and if I can make the journey fun, that seemed like an awesome way to do it. So this is just what I cared about and what I was interested in doing. I always tell people, I don't. If you want to use points and go fly economy around the world and do that, have at it. I'm like very supportive of people figuring out what matters to them. This is what mattered to me because I like flying, and I thought it'd be fun to have champagne while flying and be able to lie down and take a nap and have a better meal and go to a nice airport lounge or something. So
Yeah.
that's just what I wanted to do, and not everybody cares about that, that's great, but that's my little circle.
And you and I talked a little bit about this. Not everybody believes that they can do it, meaning I don't think that they think they could ever afford it
Sure.
or have enough money on their credit card to do it. But then also I don't think they'd know where to go or if it's even possible. So have you run into that? And what do you say to somebody that says,
Sure.
you know what? Because I believe abundance is a mindset, right? So if you want to be, how do you want to live your life? Luxury, economy? Do you want to be average or first class? Do you want to be a VIP or general admission? It's a mindset for me. But for the people that don't share that because they don't think it's possible, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think especially with points and credit cards, people see credit cards as dangerous. And I'll readily admit they can be if you're not in a good position financially and you're not responsible with your finances. I always say that this is an extra to enhance your life. It is not the key to your life. If you don't have a 700 plus credit score, maybe even 720 plus, if you don't pay your credit cards on time every time, if you see you have credit available and you feel tempted to spend, like this is not the world for you, and that's fine. But just I don't want to see anybody in financial hardship because they decided to play a game. In the end, this is a game, it's fun. So I think you start there, just let's be upfront about stuff. But after that, it's really just about piecing together a strategy. It's like a puzzle. Which credit cards work best for you based on your spend habits? Lots of credit cards have bonus categories that'll earn 2, 3, 4 points per dollar instead of one. So it's just a matter of figuring out a strategy that can work for your interest level and for the time and energy that you have to give to it.
Yeah, I think that's the case in point for everything in life is if you're intentional, because I agree with you. We're not talking about use a bunch of credit cards if you don't have any discipline, but you also don't necessarily need the discipline if you're doing it as a blueprint and a strategy. I
Yeah, yeah.
think I love how you use the words like it's a game because I think things have to be fun and you have to enjoy them. But I think also I know enough about you now to know that it's a strategic game and you have a
Absolutely.
plan. You're not just like, hey, if you're going to spend a lot of money on credit cards, let's make some points and get
Yeah.
something out of it. You go into it
Yeah.
with a strategy. It sounds like you really hacked the model you need to fit
Yeah.
for people.
It's not a game for winging it. It's you can be spontaneous with it. Oh, last minute trip, there's a ticket I can book with points and just go. I've done that. I've booked a flight 6 hours before departure and just gone to Europe. That's
Yeah,
the fun part with points. But to get there, like spreadsheets have been involved in my life. I'm really good at tracking things. And
me
a lot
too.
of people in this space, we're very aware of what we're spending, where we're spending, how much our annual fees are. We getting more value out of the credit card than the annual fee? Like we're constantly thinking like 10 moves ahead.
You look at it like, are there, for somebody that's thinking about, I want to start looking into luxury travel with credit card points, are there certain spend levels that really make that feasible and doable? Or is it not so much about the spend level because the amount of travel you do will just depend on the spend level? It's more about a strategy you apply at all levels, or is it about certain
Yeah, I
categories of
mean,
spend?
I would say if you're spending $1,000 a month, maybe 1,500 a month, I would probably say like 1,500. You're probably going to be able to do at least something. It all comes down to interest level. So I would say there's three strategies with credit cards. There's the kind of set it and forget it. You get 1 to 3 cards. Hopefully, they all have bonus categories that help you earn the most points on your spend. I know a lot of business owners who do this. A friend of mine runs a ton of digital ads, constantly has like millions of Amex and Chase points. Other people don't have the level of spend that he does, and so they'll get like 4 to 6 credit cards, and then they'll supplement with a new one every few months. Other people will just get credit cards repeatedly. And that's the maximalist approach. It's the most work, but you'll also earn the most points because every time you get a new credit card, you spend something like $4,000 in 3 months, you earn 75,000 points. You're never going to earn points faster than that.
Yeah.
But you have to be really interested in it to do that.
Yeah. So is it, and maybe you feel free to jump into a little bit of the strategy behind it, but is it about the credit cards that you're utilizing, or is it about the companies, the airlines, the hotels you're using them with? What's more important? And maybe you could give us
Sure.
just some details because the goal of this podcast was to introduce the principles and ideas, and we can give them some resources at the end. But give me a few of the strategies and tactics that you feel really make this possible.
Yeah, sure. So my main focus is what we call transferable or flexible points. Banks like Chase, Amex, Citi, Capital One, Built, they all have programs that they've built with transfer partners. So different airlines where you can transfer your points to.
Got it.
To me, this is the ideal way to start. You get access to tons more flights this way. So I always say if you have American miles, you can fly American Airlines or any of their One World partners or any of the partner airlines they have. But if you another same thing with United or Delta, you're locked into whatever their ecosystem is. If I have Chase points, I can transfer points to British Airways, which is a one world carrier just like American, and they can book anything in one world. But I can also transfer to Air Canada's program and
Mhm.
they can book anything in Star Alliance. And I can transfer to Air France KLM and they can book anything in SkyTeam. And so that now just from one hub of points, you have access to almost every airline in the world to
So
fly them.
transferable points
So
obviously is
it's just the
the starting point.
I think so, and I think it's yeah. What the reason I say that too is also sometimes airlines aren't going to release award space. So I live in DC. Say I want to go somewhere in Europe. Maybe there's no Star Alliance partner that has award space, so I can't transfer Chase points to Air Canada or United to book. But Air France has a flight, so I can transfer them to Flying Blue, their program and
Mhm.
books. You just find the opportunity wherever it is based on like your travel needs versus just focusing in on one particular airline or program.
I think that's huge because I've experienced that. I get
Yeah.
a bazillion Delta miles all the time, but not only do they limit the award travel, but you find yourself planning any kind of travel around what's open rather than creating a path to the travel with whatever's the best deal with whatever airlines or whatever else is. I
Yeah.
like transferable
It's
points because it just opens the options for you. That's
it,
really good.
it It really does. And the other thing is it's an arbitrage game. Since you have Delta Sky Miles, I'm going to ruin Sky Miles for you right now.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Right. Right.
so, like a one-way business class ticket to Europe. We're going to stick with Europe for now. Like
Okay.
Air France or KLM, you use their own program, Flying Blue. It's going to be 50. You can get it for 50,000 miles one way. Couple $100 taxes and fees. Great deal. If you
Mhm.
were to use Delta Sky Miles, the taxes and fees are lower, to only about 560, but you'll need 150 to 300,000 miles for the one-way
Yes.
ticket. And so you just think about how long, if you're just earning points off a credit card spend, how much longer is it going to take you to earn the points you need for a flight if you're using a program that requires so many miles? The fun part,
Unless there's only certain
yeah.
tickets available
Oh,
that you
sure.
can book.
And and to me, the fun part is that each airline has its own program, different rates. And so one airline's program will be great to Europe and one will be great to Asia. And so when you have transferable points, you're playing this arbitrage game of, oh, this is the better option. Let me go do that. Oh, this one
Yeah.
over here. Let me go do that. And so you're getting in a sense, you're getting the most out of your relationship with banks and airlines. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I don't know necessarily how your program works because 'cause we're gonna be digging into that, but myself personally as well. But what the logical thing that comes to mind for me as a CEO, which I know many of your clients are CEOs, business owners, that's the main target of our podcast as well. The number one thing that comes up in my mind is, "Oh, man, how much work is this?" Because sometimes, even though I know it's way more beneficial Michelle's always giving me a hard time because she's, man, you'll spend a ton of money on something that you could have just spent less on. And I'm like, it's just not worth the time to think about it. So
Yeah,
what do
sure.
you do like to help people think, all right, it's not as difficult as you think. And it's probably also once you have a blueprint or a strategy, it is easier to work. But give me some feedback on that.
Yeah, I think there's always value that you should always value your time. I think people forget that too often. They spend hours and hours to save 3 cents, and I was like, "Just pay somebody." Like,
Yeah. Right.
um, but I think with points, I think I have a quick start guide on my website that can give you that foundational kind of understanding of what we're even doing here. And once you know the basics, when you see other things, it all fits into a puzzle. And you're like, oh,
Ah,
I see how this is like this. And
yeah.
it's just a matter of kind of understanding the basics where it's like bank rules around getting credit cards or which airlines can book which airlines, just basic things like this. Once you have that, it becomes a lot easier to say, oh, I'm going to Europe. Star Alliance has a lot of airlines that fly there.
Yeah.
Let me just go check that. It's just that thing.
I
I
liked it.
also
Go ahead.
oh, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, I also send a newsletter with actual award space, like the exact dates you can book business and first class flights on international routes, and I break down the different ways you could use your points to book it and explain, like, why you would wanna use one program versus another. So,
Nice.
that's how
Well, I
I'm
think
trying to make
you're
this a
right
little
about that in business as well. The thing is this, what I tell people a lot of times is this, you're so busy, you're scattered. When you have a blueprint, then everything you're looking at fits into that blueprint or it doesn't. It's your litmus test. So you can be intentional. So when you have
sure.
clarity around what you're trying to do, and so I love the idea you got a quick start guide. We'll make sure we put some links in the show notes and let everybody know we have that before we end here. But once you have that blueprint or that strategy and you're intentional, then as you bump up against things, and it's great that you also have a newsletter that kind of pushes out that information, but I think that's a really good point to do. What are some are there some maybe myths or false beliefs that people have about travel? Like, I can't do this, I can't do that. Is there certain things that maybe would be eye opening for people that you could mention to us on this whole topic?
Yeah, I think there's a couple there's, like, the credit card side and the travel side. The credit card side is just you're gonna ruin your credit score, you're gonna just be in financial ruin after this, and I'm like I said, if you're on top of your finances, you won't be. And for whatever reason, the way the credit bureaus have arranged your credit scores or they calculate your credit scores, having more credit actually helps. So
Yeah.
I think like my credit score is over 800. A lot of my friends in this world were all over 800. So I think I understand the nervousness around credit because it's a black box and you don't fully understand every little thing that happens, but it doesn't actually hurt you to have credit cards.
And I
No,
want to just
it's okay.
mention, because I know you're gonna make a point, but I want to comment on this. I think people that don't understand the flow of money don't understand the power of being able to use a card. And so I'm
Yep,
not a proponent of using credit cards, but when it comes to business, which is what we've hit, this idea of
sure.
business, flow of money, funding your luxury travel, there are a lot of benefits because it increases your credit. It gives you more expandability. It gives you more availability of cash. And so we're not talking about going into debt. That is a completely
Yeah,
mutually
yeah.
exclusive
Yeah,
concept here. We're talking about using the flow of your money in your business to fund a lifestyle, which I think is great.
yeah,
So on the credit card point, I just want to make that point. But anyway,
yeah.
go on if you had another
Yeah,
thought.
sure. I was just gonna say with travel, I think sometimes we've talked about this. It feels like you shouldn't be doing this. It's an extravagance, and I you've talked about how important mindset is, and I think that's really important with travel. I think both for being willing to explore new destinations and experiences, but also just being willing to go. I know I've been a bit of a workaholic in my life, so sometimes it's tough to step away, but I think it's almost easier if you have points because it's not such a big outlay of cash and you don't have to be miserable on the way. If you fly business class, you're going to enjoy that. You get to lie down, go to the lounge, things will be a bit more chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, the service is just better. It's easier to
Yeah.
have better service when there's fewer people to serve. So it's going to be a
Well,
nice experience.
it's funny. Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I'm a big believer because of the mindset in how you view things. I talked a minute about abundant mentality. A lot of people probably wondering, George, why? Look, man, why are you bringing up luxury travel? Is that something you just want to do? Look, it's the reason I'm bringing up luxury travel is more than just about the travel. Number one, if you're going to live this life, you may as well enjoy it. It's a quality of life type thing. If you can do it, why not do it? But the other thing, and this is a perspective I think a lot of people don't think about, is that if you're in a mindset of growth in your business, in your life, in your relationships, what you have to realize is that growing is a process of stress and recovery. When you're working out in the gym, you stress and break down your muscles. That's not when your muscles grow,
Yeah.
when they recover.
Boy,
So
love it.
when you're burning, I've got this blog I wrote a while ago on the corporate athlete. Professional athletes, they finish a game like in a certain period of time, and then they have tons of recovery and rehab and practice and things like this. Corporate athletes, we just go like it's the fourth quarter all day long, every day for years and years and burn out. And what we don't realize is that if we truly want to grow, you need to have a sense of recovery. So why not have it be luxury travel? Why not have it be experience your life, build your relationships? But when you look at it through the lens of growth, and that you can grow from this recovery time. I'm a big believer in having some recovery time. Not a lot. I work pretty hard, to be honest, but
Yeah.
so I do agree with you. I think some people feel like they can't, shouldn't, or won't. I think there's a lot of reasons too. So I think that's big as well. Now you have a lot of clients as well. So I'm just curious. You started a newsletter. I know you have a paid version of your newsletter that you actually send out travel destinations and picks and things like this. But you have an agency as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have a travel agency side of the business. My whole thing is I want to get you there on points in business and first class. And then when it comes to like your hotel experience, if you're going to pay cash for a hotel, you may as well get the most out of it. So I'm able to add like VIP perks to any of your luxury hotel stays, stuff like that.
Right.
And it's fun. Like you can, as we've been talking about, like, you can personalize the hotel. That's why I like working in that space. You get there, you show up, the hotel knows all your preferences if you work with a good agent and
Yeah.
and is communicating with their contacts. But like being able to just get a room upgrade and daily breakfast, not having to think about that, early check-in, late checkout. Like there are some brands that will let you check in as early as 6 a.m. and check out at 10 p.m. That's insane,
Yeah,
but it
there's a
makes
lot of
things so
people
much
don't think
easier.
about that. Like, how late is your checkout? Like, those are just things you start to think
And
about, but you don't wanna think about. So you didn't go into it looking to start an agency, it's just something that evolved because of
it's
the nature of what you were doing, right?
Yeah, my it was my mentor, honestly. He was like, "Hey, I bet you could help people on the other side of those flights you help them book." And so that's what I've been doing and for the last 3 years now. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just you can make things special, and that's where I like the agency side of stuff. I've built relationships with hotels, even like luxury trains, cruises, like anything I can do to make that experience special. And you've done this wonderful thing to get over there in style, I would say, and now you may as well continue that while you're there.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see the process with most entrepreneurs or business owners that I interview. The ones that are the most successful start in an area that they love, that they're passionate about, that they enjoy. They actually go deep in really creating the knowledge and skill set, and then the business evolves. You
Yeah.
started a newsletter, may as well have a paid newsletter and do more for people and help them instead of just teaching people how to do it, which you could learn. You help them do it. You give them the options, and then ultimately, there's always a level of let me just do it for you. Let me just help do it for you. And it exists in all businesses, but in the most
Yeah.
successful businesses. So I love to see that. I think that's amazing. We're definitely gonna work with you on a couple of different things because I think we can provide some real value for our community. And we've got several magazines as well that I know we're going to try to do some things with. But this is great. This is really, man, this is just a great topic because it hits on creating a life, recovering and growth, a mindset, perspective, and leverage of things that you already have running your business. So,
Yep.
what other things do you think might be, we're short on time here, but what other things do you think might be important for people to know? Or is there anything else you'd like to mention when it comes to this luxury travel topic?
Yeah, I think so. Just remember that it's choose your own adventure game. Like you don't have to do it the way I do it or anybody else does it. You can get obsessed or you can just be casually interested in it. My favorite analogy is friends of mine who play golf. Some of them go to the driving range every week, some of them go to the putting green every week, and they go out and they play on the weekend like they're trying to get better. And then others show up on the weekend, drink a
Yeah.
beer, and play. And both of them have fun. But the person who just shows up and drinks beer cannot expect to be where the person who practices all the time is. And that's
Right.
fine, but nobody's unhappy because they're each getting what they want out of the experience. I think it's a bit like that when it comes to points and miles. You can decide that you want to read 4 hours a night for 6 months like me. Don't do it, but you could. Or you can just be very casual about it. You can get a couple cards, be done, just earn your points, maximize bonus categories, and that's enough. And that works for a lot of people. If you want to be somebody who gets a lot of credit cards and gets maximum points on everything, that's great too. Just find your sweet spot.
Yeah. I think when you begin with the end in mind and you know that you want to create a more adventurous life, I like what you said, make the game of life a game. And here's another thing I hadn't even thought of till now. You're working so hard right now. All that work, all that expenditures and revenue and things that you're doing can have a whole nother payoff for you. So
Yep.
I really love that. I think it's really good. So now, earlier you mentioned, because I was going to try to I'll make sure in the show notes that I'm going to put some links here, but you mentioned that you have a quick start guide, and I'm sure they can sign
Yep.
up at your newsletter. So is the best place for people to connect with you and get that at your website?
Yeah. Straight to the points.co.
Okay, so straight to the points.co. Go there, check out the quick start guide. You can learn, you can get an idea, an overall basis of what you'd like to do here. Then if you want to opt into the newsletter, you can do that. There's other things that are available, but I'd encourage anyone to go check this out, really do some thoughts on it. I'm actually glad we met because I would love to and for those of you listening, you probably get access to this as well. We'll get you to feature some of your articles in the magazines that we have, and we can, provide all the links to those things in the show notes. So once again, I appreciate having you here, man. This is a fun subject, a fun topic. It gets you excited just talking about a trip, right? It's the anticipation of a trip
It's a big
that
part of
you
it.
can benefit from, not just the trip itself.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, guys, listen, do me a favor, share this show and let us know what you're working on. Hit me up on the Daily Mastermind on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email me. I always put my email address in the show notes. But once again, I really believe it's never too late to start, building the life that you're meant to live. And that includes living it at the level that you want to ultimately live it. So many people are giving up on their dreams of being able to create an amazing, epic life. And this is just a topic I think will help you do it. So once again, I appreciate you being here. George Wright III, hanging out with you on the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day.